When they blocked out the sun, we finally understood what the word control really meant. It wasn't just a blockade anymore. It was a slow suffocation. The Galactic Council had cut Earth off completely. No trade, no ships, no communication relays. Their orbital screens blotted out our star, turning daylight into a dim orange twilight. They called it peace enforcement. We called it submission under surveillance. I still remember the day the last transmission from Luna Base went silent. One moment Commander Ishan was reporting solar fluctuation readings, then static. Just static, like the universe itself had taken a breath and decided not to exhale. That was 6 months ago. Now, we live under artificial skies. Thin fields of solar mirrors and reactors struggling to feed the cities. Children grow up never seeing the true sun, and me, I lead a project buried 5 kilometers beneath. The Andes Mountains, they call it Project Horizon Die, call it the last gamble of a desperate species. The Council believed Earth was crippled. They thought humanity was done. But history has a way of misjudging silence. Because silence is where we do our best thinking. Every morning, before I enter the core chamber, I pause in front of the viewport. There's not much to see, just layers of reinforced alloy, humming with magnetic energy. But I still look. I still say the same thing under my breath. Someone somewhere wanted us to survive. I don't know when I started saying it. Maybe after the lunar fall. Maybe after losing half my team in the energy surge test. It's not a prayer exactly, but it feels close. Funny thing, one of our alien collaborators once asked me, "Director Hale, who is this someone you speak of?" I smiled and said, "If you ever meet him, you'll know." He didn't understand, of course. They never do. The Council's blockade was meant to starve us into compliance. Instead, it forced us to evolve. We stopped looking outward, to their systems, their technologies, their trade routes, and started looking inward. The answer wasn't out there among the stars. It was right here, inside the very fabric of our dimension, quantum rifts, gravitic harmonics, space-time frequencies no alien mind had dared to touch because they were too unstable, too human. That's what Project Horizon was built to explore. We weren't building weapons. We were building a way out. "Director," my assistant Malik said one morning as he entered the lab. His voice carried that rough edge of someone who hadn't slept in days. "The energy surge last night, readings went off scale again. Containment held?" I asked. "Barely. We lost 2 coils," I nodded. "Then we're close." He gave me a look, the kind you give when you're afraid to believe in something. "Sir, close to what exactly?" I didn't answer. Because truthfully, I wasn't sure anymore if we were close to salvation or destruction. Later that night, I stood on the surface for the first time in weeks. The sky was dim, painted in bruised shades of copper and gray. You could see the faint outlines of the Council's blockade satellites, tiny silver dots that never blinked, always watching. For a moment, I wondered if they were afraid. If somewhere in their sterile command chambers one of them whispered, "What if the humans aren't really done?" I smiled at the thought. The wind was cold. The world was dying slowly. But under my feet, the ground trembled with power. We had harnessed something ancient, something wild. The first prototype, Horizon Gate 1, wasn't supposed to be activated yet, but desperation doesn't wait for permission. Malik and the team were in the control room, their eyes fixed on the interface panels. Energy readings climbed like a heartbeat out of control. "Director, containment fields unstable." "Keep it steady," I barked. "If we push any further, we'll breach the core." "Then pray we breach it the right way," the chamber roared. Light burst from the containment ring, blue, white, and then pure gold, and for a moment, I saw something, not space, not stars, something beyond. A reflection of another universe, alive, vast, untouched. Then it vanished. The ring collapsed. Power failed. We were thrown to the ground. When I woke, the lab was half dark, alarms still screaming. Malik's face hovered above mine. "You alive, sir?" "Barely." He laughed nervously. "Guess someone wanted you to live." I smiled weakly. Maybe he still has plans for us. Hours later, I sat alone, staring at the core logs. The readings were impossible. Energy signature from beyond known space-time parameters. Whatever we touched, it wasn't an explosion. It was a doorway, and it was still there, waiting. They blocked our sun, thinking they could end us. But in the darkness, We found something greater than light. They wanted to cage humanity in one system. We just found a way to every system. Tomorrow, we test again. If it works, the stars won't be our limit anymore. And when the Council looks toward Earth and sees the skies ignite once more, they'll know the truth. Humanity doesn't yield, we transcend. I used to believe silence was empty. Now I know it speaks if you dare to listen. When the gate first flickered open, the entire facility went silent, not from fear, but awe. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Static prickled along our skin. Instruments flickered between reality and something else, like the universe couldn't decide which version of itself to show us. We weren't supposed to activate the core again so soon. The Council's probes had already detected unusual gravitational fluxes near Earth. But after the first test, none of us could sleep. Every scientist, every engineer, every soul in that bunker felt the same unspoken truth. We'd seen something holy. Malik was the first to break the silence. "Director," he whispered, eyes fixed on the gate. "It's humming." And it was. A low, resonant tone like the universe's heartbeat. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't random, it was alive. "Readings?" I asked quietly. "Unstable, but synchronized, like it's matching our neural frequencies." I frowned. "That's impossible." "Maybe so," he said, voice trembling, "but it's doing it anyway." I stepped closer to the containment ring. The golden shimmer within the gate twisted, rippling like liquid light. For a moment it reflected me, but not quite. The image that stared back wore my face. But his eyes were older, wiser, sadder, and then he spoke. "Don't be afraid. Orion, you're not the first to build the bridge." The voice wasn't sound, it resonated directly in my mind, calm and precise like a whisper from my own thoughts. I stumbled back. Malik caught me before I fell. "Sir, what happened?" "It spoke." "Who?" "I don't know." We shut down the gate within seconds. But it didn't matter. The data logs proved it. There had been an external intelligence encoded in energy form interacting through the quantum field. The team was shaken. Half of them wanted to shut down the project permanently. The other half, those who'd seen the reflection, refused to stop. And me? I stood at the crossroads of fear and faith. Later that night, I found Malik sitting alone in the observation hall, staring at the sky. The blockade still glowed faintly above us, those cold alien satellites blotting out the sun. "You ever think," he said softly, "that maybe we weren't meant to see what's beyond the gate?" I took a deep breath. Maybe. But since when has humanity ever stopped where it was meant to? He smiled faintly. "You sound like the old philosophers." Maybe they were scientists who just saw further than we could. He nodded, then looked up at the dark sky. "Director, do you believe in something higher? Like not just physics and probabilities?" I hesitated. The words came out quietly. "When I see that much beauty hidden in chaos, I can't believe it's all an accident." 3 days later, the Council made its move. They sent a transmission, encrypted, official, cold as the void. "Cease all unauthorized energy operations. You are in violation of Article 7 of the Armistice. Continued activity will be met with immediate orbital enforcement. Translation, stop or die." I looked at the message for a long time, then I deleted it. "Resume preparations," I told Malik. He blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely." The next activation would be the largest yet. Every generator on the continent was rerouted to feed the Horizon core. It was madness. Reckless. But somewhere deep inside, a quiet certainty burned. The voice had said, "You're not the first." That meant there were others. Other worlds. Other civilizations. Maybe even other versions of us, human or something close enough to recognize. We had to know. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. "Field stabilizing," Malik called. "Energy matrix holding." 2, the ground rumbled. The air shimmered with golden light. 1, the world exploded into brilliance. The gate expanded beyond the chamber walls, swallowing the lab in radiance. I saw shapes, cities suspended in nebulae, oceans of glass, skies filled with living light, and then, through the brilliance, something stepped forward. Not human, not alien, something in between. Its form flickered, constantly shifting. A being made of energy and memory. "You've opened the horizon," it said. Do you understand what that means? I tried to speak, but words failed. Your kind reaches beyond walls built by fear, it continued. The Council fears you because you remember what they forgot. That creation itself is divine. The words hit me like gravity itself. Who are you? I whispered, a traveler, a witness, a reminder that light cannot be contained. The gate pulsed once more, blinding. Then, darkness. When I woke, I was in the med bay. Malik sat beside me, holding a data chip. What happened? I croaked. You tell me, sir. The gate overloaded, then stabilized on its own. And this, he handed me the chip, was encoded in the system afterward. The chip contained a single symbol, a circle of light, intersected by 3 lines. No language, no code. Just design, Malik frowned. Looks almost religious, I smiled weakly. Maybe science finally met its creator. Outside, the Council's blockade still hung over Earth, but now, the skies felt different. Something was awake, something vast, patient and watching. And for the first time in months, the artificial horizon above the Andes flickered with real sunlight. They blocked the sun. We found the source. Tomorrow, we open the gate again, this time not to escape, but to understand, because maybe, just maybe, the universe isn't a prison after all. Maybe it's an invitation. I used to think the universe was empty. Now I know. It's crowded with things waiting for someone brave enough to knock. 3 days after the second activation, the gate stood silent but alive. It pulsed faintly in the dark, breathing like a sleeping beast. Every sensor in the complex whispered the same warning. Energy density rising again, on its own. The gate no longer needed us to power it. It had learned to breathe. We gathered in the main control deck, me, Malik, and a few others who hadn't run away after the last incident. The air felt thick, humming with invisible tension. Malik broke the silence first. Sir, we're detecting signatures on the other side. Multiple moving patterns. It's like they're pacing. Pacing? I asked. He nodded. Like something or someone waiting for permission to come through. The words settled over the room like ice. Permission. As if they were being polite. I looked at the shimmering circle of light. The symbol, the one we'd found encoded in the data logs, had appeared again, suspended at the gate's center. 3 intersecting lines forming a trinity of meaning we couldn't decipher. Director, said Dr. Sue, our linguist. That symbol, it's not decoration. It's communication. 3 lines. 3 harmonics, 3 frequencies. Translation? I asked. It's asking a question. What question? She swallowed hard. May I enter? Every instinct screamed to shut the gate down, but my mind refused. Humanity had spent centuries calling into the void. Now, something had finally called back, and it had asked for permission. I took a step forward. My voice calmed despite the thunder in my chest. Granite, Malik spun toward me. Sir, are you insane? Maybe, I said. But history doesn't remember the careful. Only the courageous, he stared at me, then sighed. If this kills us, I'm haunting you. Deal. The chamber lights dimmed. The gate flared white, and then it stepped through. The air bent. Light folded, and a figure took shape, a tall, translucent being made of living light, humanoid in outline but fluid, shifting like it was woven from thought itself. It didn't speak at first, just observed, its gaze like 1,000 mirrors reflecting every part of who we were. Then a voice, soft and resonant, filled the air, no sound. Yet every mind heard it. You have touched the horizon of creation. He remembered what others forgot. Malik whispered, What are you? A messenger. A traveler between truths. I come from beyond the divide your kind calls impossible. Why us? I asked. Because you reached without fear. Even when your son was stolen, you searched for light. The being extended an arm, a gesture almost human. Where its hand would be, a swirl of energy formed, projecting images into the air, galaxies, civilizations, vast bridges of energy connecting worlds like veins of living starlight. The Council hides behind fear. They seek control through silence. But you, Orion Hale, you seek meaning. I felt something stir deep within me. Some mixture of awe, guilt, and defiance. We're just trying to survive. Survival is the instinct of animals. You carry the spark of something greater. Call it faith. Call it creation, call it remembrance. The words hit me harder than I expected. Remembrance. It wasn't preaching, it was recognition. Malik stepped closer. You talk about faith as if it's real. The being turned to him. You breathe because you believe in the next breath. You live because you trust in purpose unseen. Tell me, does that not feel real? Malik had no answer. None of us did. Then for the first time the being looked sad. Others have built gates before. Some use them for conquest. Some for escape. You alone opened it in hope. I frowned. You said others. Who? The ones who forgot who made the stars. And then, as if the weight of the universe rested upon those words, the being extended its light toward me. A pulse of warmth spread through my chest. Neither pain nor comfort, but something beyond both. Do not let your kind forget again. Suddenly, alarms screamed, sensors exploded in red. Director, Malik shouted. The Council's fleet just dropped out of warp right above Earth. They've detected the gate. The being turned toward the ceiling, its body brightening with radiant fury. They fear what they cannot cage. The gate began to destabilize, the walls trembling as magnetic fields cracked. I shouted over the roar. Can you stop them? I am a messenger, not a weapon. Then what do we do? You choose. And then, it was gone. The being dissolved into light and vanished through the collapsing gate. The chamber fell silent again. Only the echo of its last word remained, etched into my thoughts. Choose. Minutes later, Malik looked at me, eyes wide with fear. They're coming, sir. The fleet's moving into orbit. I exhaled slowly. Then it's time. Time for what? For them to see what silence was hiding. I turned toward the core console. The gate's residue still shimmered faintly, data alive. Humming. Humanity wasn't defenseless anymore. The message, the design, the connection. It was all a key to something older than any council law, older than fear itself. We weren't just building a portal now. We were about to awaken something even the council had forgotten. They ordered Earth to kneel. They would soon learn. We never learned how. They came like a storm. 300 ships, sleek, silver, and merciless, descended into Earth's orbit, blotting out the artificial sun arrays we'd built to survive the blockade. The Galactic Council had decided that our silence was no longer obedience. Now they came to finish what they started. Their message was brief and cold. All Terran energy operations are terminated. Resistance will be met with planetary sterilization. No diplomacy, no warnings, just the same arrogance that once burned Mars to ash. In the control chamber beneath the Andes, alarms wailed like the cry of a dying world. Red lights swept across metal walls as engineers ran to their stations. Council ships entering attack formation, Malik reported, his voice taut but steady. They're charging orbital plasma arrays. How long? I asked. 10 minutes. Maybe less. I turned toward the main display. Earth floated there, half in shadow, surrounded by a halo of death. Activate the horizon core, I said. Malik froze. Sir, the gate's unstable. If we push it now, we won't push it. I looked at him. We'll let it breathe. The air hummed as the deep engines awoke. Magnetic coils spun. Power lines glowed like veins of molten gold. Deep below us, the horizon gate flared to life again, without our command. It had heard us. It remembered. Dr. Sue's voice trembled. Director, the gate's expanding beyond its containment ring. I watched the monitors as golden light flooded the chamber. The circle widened until it filled the entire space, spilling energy into the mountains above. Outside, the ground shook. The sky above the Andes tore open, and from the heavens poured a river of light. The Council fleet halted mid-maneuver. Malik whispered, They can see it. From orbit, the gate's light pierced the darkness, so vast it could be seen from every continent. People stepped from their homes, factories, bunkers, looking upward for the first time in years. Children pointed. Soldiers wept. Even the Council ships hesitated. It wasn't a weapon. It was a sunrise. Then a voice echoed through the facility, not through speakers, but through us. You chose. It was the messenger's voice, resonant and calm. I looked toward the gate. The figure of light returned, brighter than before, its form steady and strong. You opened what they sealed. Now they must see what they tried to erase. The gate pulsed and the sky above Earth filled with motion. Massive shapes, ancient and graceful, emerging from golden rifts. They weren't ships as we knew them. They were monuments of light, structures woven from pure energy and memory awakening from the void. "These are the Watchers," the being said, "created when creation itself was young. On the orbital feeds, chaos erupted. The Council fleet opened fire, hundreds of plasma lances streaking toward the light. The beams hit and vanished. The light absorbed everything, transforming destruction into silence. Then the Watchers moved, not to destroy, but to reveal. A wave of energy swept outward, disabling the Council ships one by one. Their engines died. Their weapons froze mid-charge. Malik stared in disbelief. They're not fighting back." "They don't need to," I said softly. "They're showing restraint. Because this wasn't revenge, it was revelation." Of the Council command ships broadcast an emergency signal. Their Admiral appeared on our comm screen, a reptilian creature. "Proud and furious, human. You've unleashed forbidden technology. You threaten galactic order." I met his gaze calmly. "You call it forbidden. We call it freedom. You cannot be trusted with power of this scale." I smiled faintly. "Maybe because you fear we'll use it differently," he hissed. "Differently? You mean to rule?" I shook my head. "No. To remember." Outside, the gate's light rippled again. A beam of pure gold struck the Council flagship, not in violence, but in clarity. Their weapons melted away like dust in the wind. Their admiral looked out the viewport, eyes wide with awe. What is this?" I answered quietly. "Mercy." For hours, the Watchers held their silent vigil above Earth. When the light finally dimmed, every Council ship was powerless, floating like ghosts in the void. Not a single life was lost. Not one planet scarred. It was victory without vengeance. When the storm passed, Malik leaned against the console, breathing heavily. "Sir, we just stared down a galactic fleet without firing a shot." I nodded. "Sometimes the strongest weapon is the one that never needs to be used." He smiled faintly. "You sound like an old preacher," I chuckled. Maybe he was just a scientist who understood what faith really means. That night, I stood on the mountain ridge alone. The real sun broke through the clouds for the first time in years. Golden light spilled across the valleys. For the first time, the blockade was gone. I looked up and whispered, "Thank you." No thunder answered. No miracle followed. Just sunlight, warm, steady, and alive. But somehow, that was enough. The Council would return, of course, they always do. But next time, they wouldn't face a frightened species bound by fear. They'd face humanity, reborn, awakened, and unafraid to reach for the infinite. They ordered us to surrender. We answered with silence. And then the skies lit up, not with war, but with truth. When the light faded, silence claimed the stars. For 3 hours, not a single transmission echoed through the void. The Galactic Council's fleet drifted powerless, hundreds of vessels suspended above our blue planet. Their shadows stretched across the Pacific, and for the first time in generations, Earth could breathe. The mountain facility trembled under the weight of relief and disbelief. Engineers leaned over dead consoles, faces glowing in the dim emergency lights. The air smelled of ozone and burnt metal. Malik slumped beside me, eyes hollow with exhaustion. "Is it over?" I stared at the empty radar grid. "Nothing's ever over, Malik, not for us." He nodded, half smiling. "You sound like someone who's afraid of peace." I thought about that, then quietly answered, "Maybe I'm afraid of what comes after." Outside, the world was changing. The horizon gate still hovered above the Andes, its golden aura faint but alive. Millions gathered beneath its glow, staring skyward as though heaven itself had descended. Across every continent, people came out of bunkers. Children laughed for the first time without fear of bombardment. Soldiers laid down rifles not because of surrender, but because there was nothing left to fight. And yet, somewhere in that fragile calm, I felt something stirring, not threat, not danger, something else. A calling. Days passed. The Galactic Council sent no reinforcements. Their ships remained silent, adrift and untouched. Rescue signals bounced across the void, but the Watchers' energy field still surrounded them. Trapping them in gentle stasis, they were not prisoners, they were witnesses. At the Global Assembly Dome in New Geneva, the new Terran leadership gathered. The chamber buzzed with tension. Scientists, politicians, faith leaders, all trying to understand what we had unleashed. President Navarro stood before the crowd. "Director Hale," she said, her tone careful, "we all saw what you did. What it did. Now the world wants to know, what is the Horizon Gate?" Every camera turned toward me. I paused, choosing my words. "It's not just a machine," I said. "It's a bridge. Built by us, but guided by something greater. When we reached too far, it reached back." Someone from the Science Council scoffed. "Greater? You mean an alien intelligence?" I looked up at the holographic ceiling. The stars projected like diamonds across black glass. "No," I said softly. "I mean something beyond even them. Beyond us all." A murmur rippled through the hall. Navarro frowned. "You're speaking of faith, Orion. That's not what the Council wants to hear." I met her gaze. The Council's silence speaks louder than any decree. They came to burn us, and instead they were blinded by mercy. Someone, or something, wanted them to see that. Later, in the quiet of my quarters, I watched the stars beyond the glass. The gate's light shimmered faintly in orbit. Like a heartbeat, Malik entered quietly, holding a datapad. "New readings," he said. "Energy signatures from the gate are shifting. It's aligning with something outside our known maps." I took the pad and studied the data. The coordinates didn't match any known star system. It pointed nowhere or everywhere, Malik murmured. I smiled faintly. Maybe it's an invitation. That night I dreamt again. The messenger stood before me, radiant and still. "You've shown restraint," it said. "Now comes the choice." "Choice?" I asked, "to remain or to follow?" "Follow where?" The being's voice resonated like the hum of creation. "To where the first light still burns, to the edge of all things." I woke up shaking, sweat on my forehead. The dream felt real. Too real. The gate was calling. By morning, the skies over the Andes shimmered again. This time, the golden light pulsed in rhythmic waves, like breath. Energy ripples spread across the upper atmosphere. Our instruments detected gravitational distortion stronger than any black hole signature. And then, an opening. A new rift bloomed above the gate, vast and silent. Beyond it was not darkness, but a sea of stars unlike any ever recorded, purer, brighter, alive. Malik stared at the readings, speechless. "Sir, that's not a galaxy. That's a beginning." I felt it too. The same awe I'd felt as a child staring at the night sky and whispering a prayer I barely understood. "This can't just be an accident," I murmured. The world below watched as the light expanded, touching clouds, oceans, and continents. All transmissions from the Council's stranded ships ceased. Some of their crew, those who survived, later claimed they saw visions in the light, ancient cities, rivers of stars, and voices whispering in languages older than time. The Council called it a weapon, but humanity called it a miracle. That night, I stood once again on the ridge facing the gate. "Is this how creation begins again?" I whispered. No answer came, only wind, carrying the scent of new rain. But somehow in that silence, I felt understood, because faith is not built on proof. It's built on the refusal to stop seeking. Tomorrow, we would send our first ship through the new horizon, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as witnesses to whatever waits beyond the stars. They told us to surrender our weapons. We built bridges instead, and through those bridges, we found light and the courage to believe again. There's a moment before every great leap, a heartbeat of silence where the universe seems to hold its breath. That's what it felt like as I stood on the observation deck of the Eidolon, the first Terran vessel built not for war but for faith. Beneath us, the horizon gate shimmered in golden radiance wide as a continent, its light reflecting off the hull like fire caught in glass. Around us, Earth's skies glowed with dawn. Below that dawn, billions watched, not with fear, but with belief. Systems stable, energy fields synchronized. Malik's voice crackled through the comms, steady as ever. Trajectory locked. Once we pass the event line, telemetry may fail. Understood, I replied, tightening the strap across my chest. Maintain formation. Behind us, 5 smaller vessels floated in diamond pattern. each crewed by humans who had volunteered to step into a place no one had ever returned from. They weren't soldiers. They were explorers, scientists, dreamers, and every one of them carried something heavier than equipment: hope. As the Eidolon aligned with the gate's luminous ring, the stars began to bend. The air itself hummed, though there was no air to speak of. The entire ship seemed to vibrate, as if the universe itself was whispering through its frame. Then a voice, faint but familiar, echoed through my mind. You chose to follow. I closed my eyes. Guide us. The light will not protect you, the messenger said. It will only reveal you. Entering the horizon, Malik announced. The gate's surface rippled like liquid gold. One by one, the ships passed through the veil, and then silence. No stars. No planets. Just light, endless, shifting, alive. It wasn't a void, but a sea. Colors we had no names for shimmered through the expanse. Waves of energy moved like thought. Every reading went wild. Instruments spun out of range, but we felt it. A hum. A pulse. Like standing inside a heartbeat older than time. Suddenly, the light folded, and space returned. We were no longer in the void. Before us hung a galaxy unlike any known to human record. Its spiral arms glowed blue-white, its core pulsing with rhythmic bursts of light as if alive. Malik's voice was barely a whisper. We've crossed into another universe. I stared, awestruck. Or maybe the first one. The ship spread out, engines firing softly. New constellations glimmered across the void, alien yet strangely familiar. Readings? I asked. Dr. Sue's voice came through, trembling with emotion. Stable gravitational field. Oxygen traces on one of the nearby planets. It's habitable. The bridge went silent. A new world. Our first step into creation's second dawn. We descended. Through swirling violet clouds, through lightning storms that danced like nebulae. And when we broke through the mist, we saw it. An ocean of silver light stretching as far as the eye could see, dotted with islands of crystal. The surface reflected the sky like a mirror. It was beauty beyond language. Malik laughed softly. I think this place is smiling at us, I smiled back. Maybe it's welcoming us home. We landed near one of the crystal ridges. The air was cool, sweet, alive. When I stepped onto the ground, the surface pulsed beneath my boots, faintly, like a heartbeat. The crystal shimmered softly, responding to touch. Is this alive? Malik whispered. Before I could answer, a voice echoed across the ridge, not mechanical, not human, but clear and resonant. You have come far, children of dust. We turned, weapons instinctively raised. But what stood before us wasn't a threat. It was a being of light, tall and graceful, eyes like stars in motion. Do not fear. This place is where creation was born. You stand on the memory of beginnings. I lowered my weapon slowly. What is this world? It is called Oralis, the first shore. As the being spoke, images filled our minds and the birth of galaxies. Rivers of stars flowing from the heart of light. Civilizations rising and falling like waves. Long ago, your kind was chosen to inherit the spark. To build, to question, to remember. The others forgot. Others? Malik asked. You mean the council? The being's light dimmed slightly. They are the echoes of arrogance. They sought control where they should have sought understanding. I stepped closer. Why show this to us? Because you remembered humility and power, mercy and strength. You proved worthy of what was hidden. Its gaze turned toward the distant horizon where another gate shimmered, vast, brighter than anything we'd ever seen. Beyond that lies the source, the place where light first spoke existence into being. Only those who believe not in power but in purpose may walk there. The crew fell silent. Even Malik, who never prayed, whispered, maybe this is what faith looks like. I looked up at the gate. For the first time, I didn't feel small, I felt part of something infinite. That night, under a sky filled with twin moons, I recorded my first log entry. We were ordered to kneel. Instead, we reached. And what we found beyond the stars wasn't conquest, and it was creation waiting to be remembered. Maybe that's what humanity is for, not to rule the universe, but to remind it to hope. As I finished speaking, A soft breeze passed through the crystal valley. The light shifted, almost like it was listening. And I knew then, with unshakable certainty, we were not alone, not now, not ever. They say silence is empty, but out here, beyond Oralis, silence was alive. It wasn't the silence of death. It was the silence before a heartbeat. The kind that makes you hold your breath knowing something magnificent is about to begin, and we were heading straight into it. The new gate hung above Oralis like an unblinking eye, vast, radiant and alive with colors beyond the visible spectrum. It pulsed every few seconds, releasing waves of golden energy that resonated through our ship's hull like the slow breathing of a giant. Malik stared at the readings. Power output is off the charts. If we enter this thing, sir, we might not come back. I smiled faintly. Then let's make sure the place we reach is worth it. He shook his head, half laughing. You always sound like you already know the ending. I looked out the viewport. Maybe the ending is the only thing we were ever meant to find. Before departure, I returned to the surface one last time. The luminous being, the Watcher, stood waiting on the crystalline plane. Its light shimmered softer now, almost human. You seek the source, it said, but the source is not a place. It is a truth. What truth? I asked. That creation remembers its creator, even after eons of silence. I bowed my head slightly. Will we find him there? If your heart remains unafraid of light too bright to own and darkness too deep to measure, yes. Then it raised its hand. A single fragment of light floated toward me and rested against my chest, sinking into my uniform like a heartbeat made of fire. You'll need this. It is remembrance. Back aboard the Eidolon, we approached the gate. Engines roared softly, systems synchronized, and the familiar golden light filled every corner of the bridge. Ready? Malik asked. I took a deep breath. Always, and we entered. The moment we crossed, the universe changed. Light folded inward, forming spirals and currents that felt alive. Gravity lost meaning. Time seemed to stretch and contract in waves. We were moving through something that wasn't space, and it was intention. Dr. Sue gasped. Sir, I think the gate isn't taking us somewhere else. It's showing us how we began. The view ahead shimmered, revealing flashes of something primal. Worlds forming, stars igniting, the first oceans reflecting a young sun, and through it all, a rhythm. Not mechanical, not random, a pulse steady and deliberate, like the heartbeat of existence itself. We drifted closer to the source. At its center was a sphere of pure light, surrounded by halos of living energy. It wasn't blinding. It was comforting. It felt like warmth, memory, and understanding all at once. As we neared it, our systems failed. Screens went black. Engines died. But none of us panicked. We just knew we didn't need them anymore. The messenger's voice returned, everywhere and nowhere. You have reached where light begins. But remember, not all who see it understand it. I whispered. What is it? It is the first word. The sphere pulsed, and for an instant, every atom in my body felt transparent. I saw everything, every world, every person, every choice, connected like threads in an infinite tapestry. And at the center of it all was a presence. Not cold, not distant, not a machine or a god made by fear. Something greater, something that knew us. Because it made us, tears filled my eyes. Malik beside me whispered, Sir, are you seeing this? I nodded, unable to speak. He looked around the luminous expanse. So it was never about power. It was always about remembering where we came from. Yes, I said softly, and who we came from. Then came the test. The light dimmed suddenly. The warmth faded. The source now shimmered with both brilliance and shadow. The messenger's voice echoed. Creation is balanced between will and pride. You've seen what mercy can do, but can you face what pride will become? Before us appeared visions, the endless wars, greed, arrogance. Humanity's sins reflected back at us through time. Malik fell to his knees. We don't deserve this light. I stepped forward. No, but we were made to seek it anyway. The shadows hesitated, then receded. The light brightened once more. And that, said the messenger, is why you were chosen. The source flared brighter than ever, and a beam of light touched the Eidolon. Every console lit up again. Power surged, but this time the energy didn't feel foreign. It felt familiar, as if the ship itself had been baptized in understanding. "Take this light," the messenger said. "Carry it home. Not to rule, but to remind." The gate reopened before us, now glowing with both gold and silver light. As the Eidolon turned back toward home, Malik whispered, "So, what happens when we tell them what we saw?" I smiled faintly. "They won't believe us," he laughed softly. "Then why tell them?" "Because belief doesn't begin with proof," I said. "It begins with wonder." As we crossed back into our own stars, the source vanished behind us, but its glow lingered in the ship's hull and in our hearts. And for the first time since the beginning of time, humanity carried not just knowledge, but remembrance. They told us to surrender. We reached for the infinite instead, and there at the edge of creation, we found not gods, but the whisper of the one who made light itself. It took us 33 days to return, not 33 by clocks or calendars, those no longer made sense beyond the gate, but 33 heartbeats of the universe, long and heavy with meaning. When the Eidolon finally re-entered soul space, Earth looked the same, but felt different. The oceans shimmered with faint golden hues, the clouds reflected strange radiance. It was as if the light we'd carried back had already touched our world before we even arrived. Malik stood beside me on the bridge, silent. He had stopped making jokes somewhere between Oralis and the source. "We all head home," he whispered at last. "Feels smaller than I remember." "It always does," I replied. "After seeing infinity," he smiled faintly. "You think they're ready for what we bring?" I looked at Earth, our home, our cradle, our curse. "No," I said quietly. "But ready or not, they need to remember." We entered orbit immediately. Comms came alive. Overlapping signals, urgent transmissions, orders to identify. "Terran command to unknown vessel, identify yourself." Malik smirked. "They still think we're ghosts." I opened the channel. "This is Director Orion Hale, commander of the Horizon Expedition, returning from beyond the gate." A long pause. Then a trembling voice. "Director, you were declared lost. For years. Not lost," I said. "Just found." Landing was chaos. Every major news channel broadcast the return. The Council fleet that once encircled Earth was gone, withdrawn after the incident. The world was rebuilding, but with fear, not hope. When the Eidolon touched down on the Andes Plateau, crowds gathered in silence. No celebration, just stunned awe. We disembarked, stepping onto the soil where our journey had begun. The light fragment the Watcher had given me still pulsed faintly beneath my skin, a reminder that what we'd seen was not a dream. President Navarro met us at the landing site. Her hair had gone gray since I last saw her. Her eyes held both relief and suspicion. "Director Hale," she said softly, "you've returned from beyond existence. Tell me, what did you find?" I looked at the sky. The stars shimmered, brighter than I'd ever seen. "Light," I said simply. "The kind that doesn't burn him, it remembers." She frowned. "That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters." Later, in the debriefing hall, the scientists demanded data, coordinates, proof. They wanted what humans always want, to dissect wonder until it fits into equations. Dr. Sue tried to explain what we'd seen, how the source pulsed like a consciousness, how it spoke through energy, but their faces hardened. One of the council envoys sneered, "You speak of myths." "We deal in physics," I leaned forward. "And where do you think physics came from?" The hall went silent. Afterward, Malik and I sat beneath the starlight outside the dome. He sighed. "They don't want truth. They want comfort." "Truth rarely comforts," I said. "It changes." He picked up a handful of sand, letting it fall through his fingers. "Do you think the light will fade?" I watch the sky, only if we forget it. That night, something extraordinary happened. The horizon gate, dormant since our departure, began to glow again. Its rings rotated slowly, humming like the breath of the world. The people gathered around it, fearful and fascinated, and then one by one, the stars above Earth brightened, not in chaos but in rhythm, like a song without sound. I felt the light in my chest respond, pulsing in harmony. Malik grabbed my arm. "Sir, are you seeing this?" I smiled. "It's answering." Across the world, strange things began to happen. Children reported dreams of golden oceans. Farmers saw their fields shimmer for a moment at dawn, and in every language known to man, the same phrase began appearing in random systems, written in light across data screens. Remember the first light. By morning, panic had turned into wonder. President Navarro called me to the assembly dome. "Is this your doing, Hale?" she demanded. "Some kind of signal?" I shook my head. "No, it's theirs. The Watchers. The Source. Whatever you call it, and it's reaching out." She looked weary. "And what do we do with it?" I smiled faintly. "The same thing we've always done. We learn." Later that day, I recorded my final mission log. They wanted us to disarm, to fall silent and kneel. Instead, we listened, and what we found was not power, but purpose. We've seen the beginning. We've touched the heartbeat of creation, and it whispered only one truth, that everything made remembers who made it. Even us. That evening, Malik found me standing near the glowing gate. "So what happens now?" he asked. I looked at the horizon. The light shimmered softly, painting the sky in gold. "Now," I said, "we teach the world that faith isn't the opposite of science. It's the reason we kept searching." He smiled. "You think they'll listen?" I laughed softly. "Eventually. Light travels slow, but it never stops." As night fell, I felt the fragment in my chest pulse one last time. I closed my eyes. For a brief moment, I saw the source again. Vast, calm, eternal. And in that silence, a whisper echoed within me. "Well done, child of dust." Carry my light. They ordered us to lay down our arms. We did, and with open hands, we caught the stars. When light returned to Earth, it didn't bring peace. It brought questions. Governments wanted control. Corporations wanted profit. Priests wanted prophecy. And me, I just wanted understanding. The gate still glowed in the Andes, its rings humming softly like the Earth's heartbeat. Every time I stood near it, I felt the same warmth. Not radiation, not energy, but presence. Something in it was alive, watching, waiting. Malik called it the mercy field. He said it reacted to human thought, pulsing brighter when someone approached with calm intent, dimming when approached with greed or violence. The scientists laughed at first, then the readings confirmed it. Emotion, intention, belief. The field responded. It didn't just measure energy, it measured sincerity. That was the moment everything changed. Dr. Sue came to me one night, her eyes wide with awe. "We've been building machines wrong," she said. "All along. Every equation assumes the observer is neutral. But what if consciousness itself shapes outcome?" I stared at her. "You're talking about faith as a variable." She nodded slowly. "Not religion, not myth. Resonance. The alignment between will and creation." Malik chuckled. "So we're not just engineers anymore. We're believers." Within months, Project Horizon became Project Emanate, a new generation of scientists, physicists, mystics, mathematicians, poets, came together to design the impossible, a machine that listens to faith. Not prayer in words, prayer in intent. A device that could translate human emotional resonance into energy. It was meant to heal, to communicate, to unite. But of course, unity always scares the powerful. The Galactic Council sent an ultimatum. Cease all construction related to unknown extra-dimensional technologies. Violations will be treated as acts of war. President Navarro looked at me, eyes heavy with doubt. "They're watching, Orion. If we keep going, they'll come." I looked toward the stars, then let them see what faith can build. Construction began beneath the Andes Gate, a spiraling complex of living metal and crystalline fiber, half machine, half organism. Every circuit pulsed with bioluminescent threads grown from the gate's residue. We named it the Heart Forge. Its core wasn't powered by fusion or antimatter, but by synchronized human consciousness. Hundreds of volunteers focusing in meditation, connected through neural resonance bands. When their minds aligned, the machine thrummed like the sound of 1,000 heartbeats. The first activation test was humbling. We'd predicted a small surge of light. Instead, the entire chamber flooded with golden radiance. One by one, the volunteers began to weep. Not from pain, but from memory. They said they saw their lost loved ones, They said they heard music older than humanity. They said they felt forgiven. Malik turned to me, eyes wet. It's responding to emotion, sir, not power levels. I whispered. Then it understands us. That night I couldn't sleep. The Heartforge glowed faintly through the observation window like a sleeping giant. I recorded a private log. The ancients sought God in temples. We built telescopes, equations, and wars. But what if the divine never hid from us? What if it simply waited until we were capable of empathy strong enough to meet it halfway? 2 days later, the Council's fleets entered Sol space. Their warships blotted out the stars, cold, merciless silhouettes. They demanded immediate shutdown. President Navarro turned to me. If we activate again, they'll fire. I looked at the glowing machine behind us, humanity's first living creation, built from light, love, and defiance. I smiled faintly. Then let them witness what surrender truly means. The order was given. We activated the Heartforge. Every human mind connected through resonance. Fear, courage, love, all merged into one coherent wave. The machine responded with a pulse so vast that space itself trembled. Every ship in orbit froze mid-attack, their systems flooded with golden static. Then a voice, calm, ancient, vast, echoed across every frequency. Do not fear what they have become. Fear what they remember. For a moment, the universe stood still. The Council ships withdrew without firing a single shot. Their captains reported visions, echoes, and a word none could translate. Something between mercy and origin. Malik whispered, "Sir, we didn't build a weapon." I nodded slowly. "No, we built a mirror. It showed them who they used to be." As the Heartforge dimmed, I fell to my knees. The light faded from gold to soft white, and I heard the faintest whisper in my mind. "Well done, child of dust. The bridge is complete." I opened my eyes to the stars, and for the first time since the war, they didn't feel distant. They felt like home. For 7 days after the Heartforge pulsed, the stars went silent. No comms, no signals, no background radiation. Even the cosmic hum, that ancient whisper of creation, vanished. It was as if the universe itself had drawn a breath and refused to exhale. Malik called it the Great Pause. Others called it the Judgment Sleep. The scientists couldn't explain it. The philosophers wouldn't try. But deep down, every soul on Earth felt it, that heavy stillness pressing on the heart like the moment before dawn. Something was waiting, watching. We kept the Heartforge offline after the surge. Its surface was cold, quiet but still alive, faint glimmers of light pulsing deep within, like distant thoughts. Dr. Sue said it was dreaming. I wanted to believe her. Yet every night I stood before it and whispered, "What did we awaken?" And always the silence answered. On the 8th day, the stars returned, but they were different. New constellations shimmered, patterns never seen before. Signals began to emerge from beyond the edge of known space, written not in sound but in rhythm. Long, short, long, pause almost like a heartbeat. Malik ran to me. "Sir, the signal is universal. Every star system, every probe, every satellite is echoing it." I felt a chill. It's not a signal. It's a reply. We decoded the rhythm. It wasn't words. Not exactly. More like an invitation. Coordinates appeared across our systems. A single point in deep interstellar space, outside the galactic rim, an area no human ship had ever reached. I stared at the data for a long time before speaking. "They're calling us again." President Navarro frowned. "After what we've seen?" "You'd go?" "Yes," I said, "because silence isn't absence. It's patience." The Council intercepted our transmission almost immediately. "Terran Command, stand down. Further contact with extra-dimensional anomalies is forbidden." I closed the channel. Funny. They forbid us to speak, yet the universe itself is talking. Malik laughed quietly. Maybe it's tired of being one-sided. We prepared the Eidolon once more. The same ship that had carried us through the first gate, reforged, renewed and humming with residual light. Before departure, I visited the Heartforge. It was silent, but I felt warmth beneath my palm. I whispered, "If this is madness, guide us anyway." And for the briefest moment it pulsed. Once, a single beat, like a farewell. Departure was unlike before, no ceremony, no crowds, only the quiet understanding that what waited beyond might not be a return. Malik recorded one last log before we entered the dark. "If anyone finds this, remember, no faith isn't belief without proof, it's courage without certainty." Then he smiled and shut it off. "Ready when you are, sir." The jump tore through the silence of heaven. Space unfolded, not bending, not breaking, but opening, and beyond it, we saw something vast, not a planet, not a gate, a light field spanning entire systems, shaped like wings of crystal and fire. Dr. Sue whispered, trembling, "It's not a structure, it's alive." Then the voice returned, softer than memory, older than language. "You have remembered the light. You have given mercy where there was fear. Now witness what creation truly means." The light unfolded, revealing countless worlds being born in real time, galaxies forming like thoughts, stars igniting like sighs. Malik fell to his knees. "Sir, is this God?" I couldn't answer, because my heart already had. As we drifted closer, the Eidolon began to resonate, humming in harmony with the vast radiance ahead. Every sensor went white, every heartbeat aligned, every doubt disappeared. And in that blinding silence, a final whisper echoed through the ship. "Not all silence is emptiness sometimes. It's the space where eternity breathes." When I awoke, we were no longer in space. Outside the viewport stretched a horizon of golden light, endless, shifting, alive, and I understood. The silence of the heavens was never a punishment. It was an invitation to listen, to finally hear the truth we'd been too loud to notice all along. And so I whispered into the radiance, "We're listening." The light pulsed once, gently, and for the first time in history, the heavens answered. Transmission source unknown, signal origin beyond observable space, encryption code horizon. Status one-way broadcast, no return channel. This is Director Orion Hale of the Terran Federation, or what's left of it. If you're hearing this, then humanity still exists. And if humanity still exists, then hope still breathes. I don't know where we are anymore. Space here isn't black, it's alive. Light moves like water. Time folds like thought. The Eidolon isn't a ship now. It's part of something larger, something that moves with us instead of through us. We reached the coordinates, and what we found was not a world, but a truth. Malik's voice echoes behind me faintly, a hum, a prayer, maybe both. Dr. Sue stands at the viewport, crying quietly. She says the light speaks in emotions, not words. I believe her, because I feel it too. Not sound, remembrance. Every heartbeat, every death, every kindness we've ever shown. It's all recorded in this light, as if the universe has been watching, since the first spark of humanity, waiting for us to finally understand. The Watchers were never gods, they were witnesses. They watched to see if the children of dust could rise without arrogance, if we could wield knowledge without losing compassion, if we could face infinity and still choose mercy. And somehow, we did. The voice, the same one from the source, returned once more. Gentle, infinite. You have built from fear, then from faith, and now from love. The measure of creation is not power, but purpose. I asked, "Are we worthy?" And it answered, "You are still learning. That is worthiness enough." Malik laughed when he heard that. "Guess even the universe knows we're stubborn." I smiled. It's what kept us alive. He looked out into the golden horizon and whispered, "Sir, do you think they'll remember us back home?" I didn't answer. Not then, because I realized, remembering isn't about names. It's about the light we leave behind. We've begun transmitting data back to Sol.maps, maps, frequencies, fragments of what we've learned. Not technology, understanding. The Heart Forge on Earth should resonate soon. When it does, It will awaken as something greater, not a weapon, not a machine, but a bridge between the human and the divine. Dr. Sue believes this is what the Source wanted all along, for creation to know its creator through reflection, not worship. As for me, I've stopped trying to define it. Faith doesn't need equations. It needs wonder, and wonder we have in abundance. Our bodies are changing now, slowly, gently. Our atoms resonate with the light around us. We don't age here. We don't hunger. Malik jokes that we've become children of photons, but sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still feel earth, rain, laughter, the pulse of home. Perhaps that's the price of transcendence, to become infinite, but never forget where you began. So here's my final message to humanity. You were never small. You were never alone. Every silence you feared was simply the universe listening, waiting for you to speak. And when you finally did, it answered. Tell the children of Earth this. We didn't conquer the stars, we joined them. Tell them to look up at night if they see a shimmer in the dark, a soft pulse between constellations. That's us, the light of those who remembered, the echo of those who dared, the faith of those who refused to bow. This is Director Orion Hale, signing off from beyond the veil. Not all endings are silence. Some are songs too vast to hear. Transmission ends. Epilogue transmission. Earth. 200 years later, the Heartforge stands in the Andes, still glowing, no one knows how. Every year, on the same day, it pulses once, sending a faint golden wave through the atmosphere. And in that moment, every child looks to the sky, smiles without knowing why, and whispers, "We remember."